From the Riley Center on the campus of St. Bonaventure University, we have St. Bonaventure women's basketball here on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. Hello, everyone. Tom Sipe ready to bring you an early conference matchup between St. Bonaventure and George Masonn. The Bonnies look to snap their 5-game losing streak. They sit at 3-13 on the year, and they'll take on George Masonn, a team that they have historically had some success against in the last few years. They come in at 0-1 in conference play as well, and 7-7 on the regular season. St. Bonaventure coming off a few tough losses in a row, including their first conference loss of the season at UMass. They lost that one 74-51. Bonaventure led after the first quarter, but then in the second quarter and third quarter, UMass started to build up their lead. St. Bonaventure was able to go on an 11-0 run in the third quarter to cut the lead to 6, but that was not enough as UMass outscored St. Bonaventure the rest of the way by 15 to secure a 74-51 victory. Claire Cody led St. Bonaventure in scoring in that one with 12 points. Yaya Lopes chipped in with 11. And they look to get their first conference victory of the season here today at home. It's a new season for St. Bonaventure. They went 3-12 in non-conference play, but when it comes down to it, conference play is what really matters. They're 0-1 on the season, but could look to go to 500 in conference play at 1-1 after today. George Masonn is a team that they've had some success against in years past. Last year, the two teams split as St. Bonaventure got the win in Virginia, 81-74, but then George Masonn ended the regular season with a victory here at the Raleigh Center with a 61-50 victory. But before that, St. Bonaventure had won 5 straight games against the Patriots, and looking for some of that similar success here today at the Raleigh Center. We're going to take a look at the starting lineups for both teams. We'll start with the home Bonnies. The starting lineup that will have Tedeschi Lassine at the point guard position. Tiana Johnson and Nikki Oppenheimer will be the other guards. Taylor Napper will be the 4, and Yaya Lopes will be the center for St. Bonaventure tonight. And then for George Masonn, we'll take a look at their starting lineup as well. They have Taylor Jamison will be the point guard. Sonia Smith, Janaya Emframe, Riley Childs, and Nalani Casilla will round out the Patriots starting 5. They're led by Taylor Jamison. She averages 14.5 points per game. She got 36% from the field, 30% from three-point range. And also Casilla Delmo, 6 points and 6 rebounds, averaging on the season, shooting right about 50% at 49%. She's a transfer from Charlotte. She actually begins her first collegiate basketball season after 3 seasons of playing Division I volleyball at Charlotte, and she's been great so far for George Masonn, earning a starting lineup role so far. Just about 5 minutes away from tip-off here between these two teams, and it's important for St. Bonaventure as they get Tiana Johnson back into the starting lineup. She's missed the last few games with an injury, and she is back and healthy to play today. As she did come off the bench for St. Bonaventure in the last game. She played 29 minutes, had 7 points and 6 rebounds, so her presence is going to be key for St. Bonaventure again here today. St. Bonaventure comes in averaging 52.5 points per game. George Masonn 62. St. Bonaventure allows about 65 points a game. George Masonn just about the same at 64. So we're going to step aside, but when we return, it will be after the national anthem, and we'll get ready for action between St. Bonaventure and George Masonn. You're listening to St. Bonaventure Women's Basketball on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. From the Raleigh Center on the campus of St. Bonaventure University, we're moments away from St. Bonaventure women's basketball here on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. Good evening, everyone. Tom Sipe, ready to bring you this conference game between George Masonn and St. Bonaventure. The Bonnies come in on a 5-game losing streak, including a loss in their conference opener against UMass on Saturday. They sit at 3-13 on the season, and they'll take on George Masonn, who comes in with a record at 7-7. They also lost their conference opener. They fell to Dayton on Sunday. So both teams will be looking for their first conference victory of the season. This is a team that St. Bonaventure has had a little bit of success against in recent years. George Masonn won the last matchup between the two in the last regular season game a year ago here at the Raleigh Center, 61-50. But before that, St. Bonaventure rattled off 5 straight victories against the Patriots, and Coach Fleming will be looking for that same success today. We'll take a look at the starting lineups for both teams, and we'll start with the visiting George Masonn Patriots. They're led by Taylor Jamison at the point guard position, and Sonia Smith, Janaya Ephraim, Riley Childs, and Nalani Casilla will be down low for George Masonn. For St. Bonaventure, their starting lineup will be Nadeshka Lasid at the point guard position, Tiana Johnson and Nikki Oppenheimer, the other two guards. Taylor Napper will be at the 4, and Yaya Lopes will be the center again tonight for St. Bonaventure. George Masonn wearing their green road uniform, St. Bonaventure in their home whites. Again, both teams looking for their first conference victory of the season. These are the preseason ranked number 14 and 15th ranked teams in the conference. So nice for both teams to try and secure a conference victory here in the first week of the conference season. We're just about set for tip-off. Ronnie Stevenson, Caitlin Toderies, and Sean Goody are the officials here at the Raleigh Center today. So it will be Casilla and Lopes who have the jump ball, and George Masonn wins possession. They will start with the ball. George Masonn going from my right to left as they get it over to Casilla, now back up top to Ephraim. Ephraim takes 2 dribbles and gives it back up to top to Jamison, now over to Smith. Smith has it up top, spin moves, kicks it out into the corner to Childs. Childs back up top to Smith. 7 left on the shot clock. Her pull-up jumper is up, no good. Rebounded by Tiana Johnson. Bonaventure will have their first offensive trip here of the evening as Johnson gets it over to Lacine. And Lacine will restart with things up top. So Bonaventure has won 5 of their last 6 games against George Masonn. Looking for some success like that today as Lacine drives. And her layup is up and good. And the Bonnies are in the scoring column first as Nadeshka Lacine gets a layup to go. As now George Masonn will have possession coming the other way to get it over in the corner. And now they restart up top with Ephraim. Now over to Childs and Jameson in the corner. Back up to Ephraim. They try to get it inside to Casilla. Her post move layup is up, no good. She gets her own rebound, goes right back up, and it's no good again. And that one's rebounded by Lopes. It's tipped around for a moment and will eventually be picked up by Tiana Johnson, as she'll bring it down the other way. As Johnson will slow things down, they run the offense. She uses a Napper screen, kicks back up top to Napper. She'll take a 3-pointer. It's up and hits back on. That's rebounded by Nikki Oppenheimer. As they'll restart with Johnson. And they'll slow down and reset with another play here. So Johnson has it up top. About a minute 45 here into this game. Johnson's pull-up jumper is no good. And it's rebounded by Ephraim. They'll push the other way with Sonia Smith. She crosses over, gets it up to Childs. She could shoot. Her 3-pointer is up and pure. As Riley Childs knocks down the 3-pointer. And it's 3-2 George Masonn, 2 minutes in. As the scene has it up top, gets it over to Johnson. Looking to the corner to Oppenheimer. They get it to her. And they restart with Johnson. So Johnson has it up top. Doesn't use the Napper screen, now does. Trying to drive into the paint. They won't let her. Kicks back up top to Lacine. 7 left on the shot clock. Now 5. Lacine trying to drive. Kicks it up to Johnson, who's 3-pointer short. And it will go out of bounds off the rebound. And possession goes back to the Patriots. George Masonn has possession here. 3-2 their lead. 2 minutes and 40 seconds, I should say, into this game as Ephraim trying to drive, can't. Kicks it back up top to Casilla. Looks like Bonaventure's in a 2-3 zone as Jameson takes 3-pointer from the corner. It's no good. And it's rebounded by Child. She tries to go back up with it. There's a pass, but it kicks off Bonaventure foot. And George Masonn will keep possession. As Claire Cody will check into the game for the first time. As she checks in for Taylor Napper. So Cody the first sub off the bench for either team. As George Masonn will inbound it from under their own basket. They get it into the corner now, back up top to Ephraim. Ephraim trying to look inside, it's deflected. As ball's on the ground, so is Johnson, but they're able to pick it up is George Masonn. So get it over to Sonia Smith, dump it down low, great cross-court pass to Ephraim, whose layup is up and good. Now George Masonn applying some pressure as they lead 5-2. They get up to Lope, she had a 2-on-1, had nothing, and resets up top with Johnson. She'll walk into a three-pointer, and it's up and no good. Off the rim twice. And it's picked up by Masonn. Masonn trying to push the pace a little bit here as Sonia Smith will pull up from three, and it's no good. And it's rebounded by Childs, but it goes off her knee and out of bounds. And possession will go back to the Bonnies. As they get it inbounds to Lacine. And over to Johnson, now back over to Lacine. George Masonn continuing their full court pressure. They get it up to Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer will take a dribble and pull up from three and hits. Nikki Oppenheimer ties the game at 5 with a pull-up three-pointer. The game is tied with 6:15 left here in the first. As Sonia Smith has it up top, kicks over into the corner to Jameson. Now back up top to Smith. Kick it over to Childs, now over to Jameson, who takes the corner three, and she hits. A few three-pointers from both teams here as now George Masonn leads 8-5. As George Masonn continuing that full court pressure, Johnson floats it up to Lacine to get it up to Oppenheimer. She'll take another three-pointer that's up and no good, and it's rebounded by Riley Childs. So Masonn looking to continue to push the pace here as Smith kicks it up top to Childs. Childs drives, her layup is up and no good. It's rebounded by Yaya Lopes. She tried to pass it up to Lacine, but it's intercepted by Ephraim. She gives it up to Childs. Her layup is up, and a foul's going to be called. Can't tell if it's on Claire Cody, and it is. The foul called on Cody, as Kira Dandridge will check into the game, as will a few George Masonn players. Paula Suarez, Jada Brown, and Jasmine Doster all check in for George Masonn. As Riley Child will head to the free throw line, 60% free throw shooter. The transfer grad senior from Boston University. And so first free throw is up and good. George Masonn holding a 9-5 lead. As Child second free throw is up and also good. So Napper's going to check back into the game for Yaya Lopes this time. So George Masonn continuing to apply some full court pressure. As Napper gets into Lacine. Lacine gets over to Dandridge. Dandridge now trapped near the sideline, gets it to Cody. Cody gives it over to Napper across the timeline, and Bonaventure will slow things down. Let's kick it over to Oppenheimer. She'll take another three-pointer that's short. And the rebound is going to be tipped and picked up by George Masonn as Doster gives it up to Suarez, and Suarez will bring it up the court on the near side. Now she gets it up top to Doster, now over to Mitchell. Suarez has it up top. Bonaventure still showing zone. Suarez kicks it into the corner for Jada Brown's three-pointer. It's up and no good. And it's rebounded by Taylor Napper. She gets it to Lacine, looking to push. 4:48 remaining here in the first. George Masonn leads 10-5. As Napper has it up top, looking for Oppenheimer, gets to her. Oppenheimer up to Lacine, now back over to Oppenheimer. She started by another three-pointer. Pump fake is up, and it's good. Nikki Oppenheimer knocks down another three-pointer. They cut the deficit to 10-8. Nikki Oppenheimer up to 6 points. And she's 2 for 4 from three-point range so far as George Masonn pushing. Gets it up to Casilla up top, now over to Suarez. Suarez trying to drive, can't. Gives up to Casilla. Her long two is short. The rebound's tipped and picked up by Nikki Oppenheimer. Step to Lacine. Bonaventure looking to at least tie the game. 6 minutes into this one. George Masonn 10, St. Bonaventure 8. As Lacine gets it up top to Napper. Get over to Dandridge. They look down low for Lacine. Didn't have her. Gets it up to Oppenheimer. Now over to Lacine. She'll drive. One dribble pull-up jumper is no good. And it's rebounded by Casilla. And Suarez will bring it up for George Masonn. Next stoppage, we will have immediate timeout, but no whistles in the last few minutes. As Suarez has it on the wing. She'll drive. Gets into the paint. Gets it up to Doster. His layup is up and no good. It looks like a foul is going to be called on Doster on the rebound. And possession will go the other way. That will lead us to a immediate timeout as with 3:26 remaining here in the first quarter. George Masonn 10 and St. Bonaventure 8. You're listening to St. Bonaventure Women's Basketball on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. We're back here at the Raleigh Center where St. Bonaventure trails George Masonn 10-8. Now, with 3:26 remaining here in the first quarter. St. Bonaventure's been led by Nikki Oppenheimer so far. She knocked down 2 threes, and the Dutch School scene got a layup to go for their 8 points. They've held George Masonn to 3 for 12, shooting from the field, with Bonaventure shooting 3 for 10 as we're back. Action has resumed, I should say, as Lacine has the top. It's Lacine, Johnson, Napper, Dandridge, and Lopes on the floor for St. Bonaventure, as Johnson has it, gets it up top to Lopes. Looking for Napper on the elbow, she gets it to her. Napper looking for Johnson, but can't get it to her. Now she does on the wing, and they restart with Lacine up top. 5 seconds left on the shot clock as Lacine drives. Her pull-up jumper is up and gets wedged in between the backboard and the rim, as there will be a jump ball called, and possession will go back to St. Bonaventure. So Bynes will keep possession here. Lacine, the inbounder, under her own basket. Looks to get it inbounds, gets it to Dandridge. Dandridge gets back over to Lacine, and they'll restart up top with 15 left on the shot clock. Lacine trying to drive, kicks over to Napper. Napper drives, has nothing, gets it into Lopes in the paint, but it's tipped out to Lacine. She has it up top with 5. Lopes has it up top, trying to do something with 3. Kicks over to Dandridge, whose three-pointer is up and no good, but her foot was on the inline. And it goes out of bounds, and possession will go back to George Masonn. A good possession there for St. Bonaventure, but rather defensive possession for George Masonn. As they get it up top to Suarez. As Jameson back up top to Brown, over to Suarez. Bonaventure showing a 2-3 zone, extended 2-3 zone as Suarez has it. 10 left on the shot clock. To get it inside, Mitchell kicks it over into the corner for Brown for 3, and it's no good. Rebound tipped. And it goes out of bounds. Last touch by George Masonn, so Lions will get the ball back. 2:11 left here in the first. St. Bonaventure trailing 10-8. As Lacine will be the inbounder, gets it over to Johnson. Johnson gets it to Lacine. She's trapped for a moment, but a foul's going to be called on Jada Brown, who was defending Lacine. That's the second foul of the game called on George Masonn. Only 3 between the two teams in the first 8 minutes of play. As Lacine gets it to Tiana Johnson, who loses it. Ball's on the ground. It's going to be picked up by George Masonn now. As Jameson has possession, they'll restart with Suarez up top. As they get it inside, Mitchell has it, kicks it into the corner for Brown. Her three-pointer is up, and it's good. Jada Brown knocks down a three-pointer, and George Mason's lead is back up to 5, 13-8. As full court pressure continues to be applied. They go to Lacine, get it up top to Lopes. They have 3-on-1 if they push. Lopes' floater is up, and it looked like it was partially blocked. The rebound's continuing to be fought forward and picked up by George Masonn. They make the push quickly with Suarez. She goes cross court to Jameson. Has nothing, dumps it down low to Dosser. Is tipped by Napper. Ball's on the ground. Picked up by George Masonn as Jameson has it. And they'll restart with Suarez with 15 left on the shot clock. 10 left on the shot clock. Now 1:13 left on the game clock here in the first quarter. George Masonn leading 13-8 as they get into the corner to Jameson. She dumps down low. Layup up and good from Jasmine Doster. And George Masonn has its largest lead of the game at 15-8. As Lacine has it, breaks through the press. They have 3-on-2, and Napper's floater is up and no good. And rebound fought for it. Saved in bounds by George Masonn. They're able to keep possession with Paul Suarez. Suarez goes behind the back, trying to drive with her left hand. Her layup is up and no good. And it's fought for, rebounded by Brown, and her layup is up and good. Actually, that is Jasmine Doster, I should say. As Tiana Johnson gets it over to Taylor Napper, and Napper loses it in the middle of the court. And possession goes back to George Masonn. As they try to get it down low, but good defense by St. Bonaventure. Lacine picked up the steal. She comes down the entire length of the court, kicks it into the corner to Johnson, whose three-pointer is up and no good. And that ball will go out of bounds. Good court recognition. Behind the dash go, Lacine going the length of the court, knowing that Tiana Johnson was in the corner, kicked it to her. Just not able to knock down the three-pointer as Brianna Ware and Claire Cody check into the game for Bonaventure now. So it's Claire Cody, Yaya Lopes, Brianna Ware, Kira Dandridge, and Tiana Johnson on the floor for the Bonnies. It's Tamara Longhorn checked in along with Amy O'Hara for George Masonn and Trey Kennedy, the Marist transfer. As they go over to Longhorn, trying to dump it down, they can't. Goes out of bounds, last touch by Cody. So the Patriots will keep possession. 1.2 seconds left on the clock here in the first quarter. They get it into Jameson, whose three-pointer is up, and looks like a foul is going to be called. An offensive foul onto my Longhorn. And possession will go back to St. Bonaventure. As putting an extra 10th back on the clock. Brianna Ware will be the inbounder. She gets it to Johnson, who will just hold it out. And that will do it for the first quarter. So after 10 minutes of play, George Masonn 17, St. Bonaventure 8. We'll be right back for second quarter action here at the Rally Center as you're listening to St. Bonaventure Women's Basketball on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. We're back here at the Riley Center where after 10 minutes of play, St. Bonaventure trails George Mason 17-8. George Mason ended that first quarter on a 7-0 run to build up this lead. George Mason started the first quarter shooting 3 for 12 from the field, ended 3 for 5. As they built up a 9-point lead, and they will start with possession here in the second quarter as they have it up top. They kick it over to Kennedy. She drives, gets into the paint, kicks into the corner for Suarez for 3, and it's up and no good. Rebound in front for her. It's on the ground, and it's picked up by O'Hara, and it will be a jump ball. And possession will go back to the Bonnies. So St. Bonaventure will get possession back. As well, gets in bounds to Johnson. Johnson gets it up the floor to Dandridge. He's had 3-on-2, but wasn't able to get anything working, so they restart with Ware. It's on the floor for St. Bonaventure. Ware, Cody, Lopes, Johnson, and Dandridge. As Ware looking for Dandridge, gets it to her. Now over to Lopes. Lopes looking, gets to Dandridge. Dandridge with 5 left on the shot clock. Carries on the wing with 3. Gives it up to Ware. Ware's going to have to put a shot up with 1. Floater is up and no good. But it didn't matter. It's a shot clock violation and possession. We'll go back to the Patriots. Good defensive sequence there from George Mason. As they will get the ball back and hold a 9-point lead. As Suarez will bring it up. Gets it up top to Kennedy. Kennedy over to Lawhorn. As Smith has in the corner. Look down low to O'Hara. One dribble. Pump fake. And her layup is up. It's no good. It's rebounded by Lawhorn. Her putback is up and good. And the lead is up to 11 for George Mason as they get it over to Brianna Ware. She's looking for Cody. Gets it to her. Cody will bring it across the timeline. Gets it up to Ware. So Ware will have possession. As the run is now 9 for St. Bonaventure. As Ware trying to make something happen. Goes baseline. Kicks over the corner to Cody. Up top to Tiana Johnson. Johnson trying to drive. Her pull-up jumper is up and good. Tiana Johnson, good pull-up jumper. Ends the George Mason run. And cuts the deficit to 9. Suarez will have it up top. Kicks it over to Kennedy. And get it over now to Lawhorn. Now Sonia Smith has in the corner back up to Kennedy. Let's just continue to sit in that 2-3 zone as Lawhorn has on the opposite corner. Get over to O'Hara. With 6 left on the shot clock. Pull-up jumper from Sonia Smith is up and pure. It's going to be a 2-pointer. Her foot was on the line on the step back. As George Mason leads 21-10. Continuing this full court pressure as Ware kicks it up to Dandridge. She'll take a 3-pointer. It's pure. Taylor Dandridge knocks down a 3-pointer. And it's 21-13. Suarez has it up top, gets it over to Kennedy. Kennedy up top to Sonia Smith. She'll have possession and slow things down a little bit. Smith continues to dribble up top. Doesn't really have any forward movement. Smith will kick it over to Suarez now. She'll drive into the paint. Her floater is up and no good. Rebound fought for it. Eventually picked up by Dandridge. And she'll bring it up herself. 3 minutes into the second quarter. She kicks it up to Tiana Johnson. Was looking down low for Cody. Didn't have her. Trying to drive baseline now. Backs it up. Goes it up to Lopes, whose jumper is up and no good. And the rebound will go out of bounds. Last touch by George Mason. And a few more subs from both teams. 4 new faces on the floor for George Mason as Cody and Dandridge check out for Oppenheimer and Dandridge. So 6:46 remaining here in the first half. St. Bonaventure trails 21-13 against George Mason. As Ware gets them down to Lopes up top. And she'll get it right back with Ware at the point. Ware trying to use the screen, gets into the paint. Didn't really have nothing, and it's turned over. Good defense by George Mason as they just picked her pocket from behind. They pushed it up the floor. Layup is up from Smith. It's no good. It's rebounded by Smith herself. And it looked like it did hit the rim when she was able to get the rebound. But she dumps it down low. An injury timeout is in the middle of the possession. That's Deanna Johnson just topped right off the floor. As she went straight back towards the locker room. And George Mason's coach is pretty upset with the call, but I think she's frustrated as the whistle was blown in the middle of the possession, as there was still live play going on, and understood why the head coach is upset, but regardless, basket will not count, as George Mason will get it right back, as the layup by George Mason's up and no good. And the foul is going to be called on the Patriots. So after that, George Mason continuing to lead 21-13. As Oppenheimer checked in for Johnson when she went out injured. As Ware gets it to Dandridge. They get it right back to Ware. As Ware gets it up top to Oppenheimer. She'll pull up from three, it hits back on. And it's rebounded by Janiyah Ephraim. As they push the floor quickly with Jameson. Jameson kicks it over now to Smith. And down low to Ephraim. Ephraim goes up with the layup and a foul's called. The foul's going to be called on Kira Dandridge. It's her first. And George Mason's headed to the free throw line for two.
Shooting two.
So Janiyah Ephraim had to the free throw line. So that's Ephraim's first free throw. Riles around the rim and in. And the lead is back up to 9. As the second free throw now is up and good. So George Mason's lead is back up to 10, 23-13, as Ephraim knocks down both free throws. As Lopes gives it up to Ware. Ware gets to Oppenheimer across the timeline. So Oppenheimer will give it over to Dandridge. She thought about a three, instead will try to drive. And we'll reset back up top with Ware. With 5:39 remaining here in the first half. 13 left on the shot clock. Ware has it up top. Trying to make a move, drives with her left hand. Kicks it over to Napper. She'll drive, the traveling violation called on the pump fake. And possession will go back to the Patriots. So the Patriots will have possession. Kick it over to Ephraim. And back up top to Jameson. Jameson over in the corner to Smith. Smith trying to drive, kicks it over now to Ephraim. And they kick it down low. As it's Kasaya who loses it on the one dribble. And it's saved inbounds while still being fought for, and it's kicked up top to Smith. She'll take a three-pointer, it's up and hits back on. And that's rebounded by Brianna Ware. Bonaventure has 2-on-1 if they push. Ware trying to go all the way. Her layup is up and no good. Good defense there from Smith. As the foul is going to be called on Brianna Ware on the rebound. And that will send us to a immediate timeout. So midway through the second quarter, George Mason 23, St. Bonaventure 13. We'll be right back as we're listening to St. Bonaventure Women's Basketball on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. We're back here at the Riley Center where George Masonn leads St. Bonaventure 23-13. George Masonn only shooting 2 for 8 from the field. But St. Bonaventure has turned the ball over a lot so far, allowing them to hold a 6-5 advantage here in the second frame as they get it into the corner. Now back up top. Now over to Jameson, and Jameson has it with 10 on the shot clock. She'll drive, kicks into the corner for Childs, who takes 3 points, no good. And rebound fought for and saved and bounced by George Masonn, but Bonaventure able to pick up the loose ball as Oppenheimer will bring it up. As Oppenheimer gives up to Lacine. It's Lacine, Namper, Dandridge, Lopes, and Oppenheimer on the floor. As Lacine gets it to Dandridge, it's back over to Lacine. She drives, her one dribble pull-up is up and no good. And it's rebounded by George Masonn. Now look to push the ball quickly. Smith has up top, ball by 3-pointer, kicks over to Childs. And they restart with Sonia Smith up top. So Smith will have possession. 3:50 left here in the first half. George Masonn leads 23-13. As Smith pull up a 3-pointer is no good. And it's rebounded by Kayla Dandridge. Subani is trailing by 10. Looking for some points here as Dandridge brings up the floor. Her pull up 3-pointer is up and good. Kayla Dandridge has space and pulls up from 3. And cuts the deficit down to 7. Smith will have it up top for George Masonn. Smith gives it inside, and Childs resets up top now with Ephraim. Ephraim looking for an opening, doesn't have anyone at first. As he gives back up to Smith. 7 left down the shot clock. Bonaventure in a 2-3 zone. Smith loses it and it's picked up by Nikki Oppenheimer. She kind of just lost it. And it was picked up by Bonaventure. They go up to Dandridge. And they restart with Lacine. So they slow things down here now. 16 left on the shot clock. Lacine gives it over to Knapp and they kick it over to Lopes. Lopes back up top to Lacine. Her 3-pointer is up and no good. And it's rebounded by Riley Childs. Childs looks to push the floor quickly with Taylor Jameson. She drives, kicks it into the corner. Now back up top to Smith. Smith drives, one dribble pull up is up and good. Sonia Smith knocks down the mid-range jumper. And the lead is back up to 9. As Lacine gets it to Lopes and gets it right back. She's able to break the press as Lacine goes right to the basket. Her scoop layup is up and no good. And it's rebounded by Sonia Smith. George Masonn got lucky though as she missed that layup. Smith now has it on the wing. Looking to build on their 9-point lead. Smith has that top, driving with her right, gives up to Jameson. Jameson will take a long 3-pointer that banks in. As George Masonn knocks down a long 3-pointer, their lead is at its largest of the game at 12 as Bonaventure pushes the floor quickly, gets up to Dandridge, takes a 3-pointer in the corner, it's no good. And it's rebounded by George Masonn. So George Masonn will now have possession. Up by 12 as they kick it over to Taylor Jameson. Now over to Ephraim. Ephraim trying to make a move into the paint. She goes right at Oppenheimer. An offensive foul is going to be called against her as Oppenheimer went down. And she went right into her chest. And possession goes back to George Masonn. We have 5 new players for George Masonn on the floor. It'll be Doster, Suarez, Mitchell, Lawhorn, and let's see, who am I missing? And Jada Brown. There we go. So 5 new players on for George Masonn as they continue their full court press, but Bonaventure has possession as Dandridge brings it all the way up the floor. Bounce pass on the block to Napa will go out of bounds. As it looked like she had a layup opportunity as she went right from one end of the court to the other. That was turned over. And now George Masonn will have possession. They're up 28-16 with 1:15 left here in the first half. As they kick it over to Jada Brown. And up top to Lawhorn. She'll take a 3-pointer from straight on. It hits front iron. And picked up by Nikki Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer will bring it across the timeline for the Brownies. Kicks it over to Nadeshka Lacine. And Lacine will have it on the wing. Bonaventure trails by 12. As they drive. Kicks it up top to Napa. She takes a 3-pointer. That's up and no good. And it's rebounded by Lawhorn. Foul's going to be called on Kira Dandridge on the rebound. The possession will go back to George Masonn as Caitlin Parker was checking the game for the first time for Dandridge. Just picked up her second. George Masonn will have possession, so on the floor for Bonaventure is Lucina and Oppenheimer up top in the 2-3 zone, then Parker, Napper, and Lopes. Suarez has it up top. Gets it on the elbow to Mitchell. She dumps it down low to Doster, who kind of loses it last touch by Bonaventure as it goes out of bounds. So George Masonn will keep possession. Suarez will inbound from under her own basket. Suarez kicks over to Brown. Brown's mid-range jumper is up but no good. It's rebounded by Longhorn. She tries to go back up with it, but stolen by Caitlin Parker. Parker trying to go through a bunch of George Masonn defenders and eventually loses it. And it's picked up by George Masonn. They kick it into the corner to Longhorn. Takes a step back three-pointer. It's up and no good. Rebound tipped and picked up by Lopes. She throws all the way down the floor where Caitlin Parker is. Her left-hand layup is up and good. So with 10 seconds left, Bonaventure able to cut the deficit to 10, but there's still 7 seconds left on the clock. As Suarez brings it up. She drives right into the paint. Touchdown move to Brown for a wide open layup, and she missed. A foul's going to be called on Brown. Excuse me, I should say Doster. As she missed the wide open layup, but fouled the Bonaventure player on the rebound. As O'Hara will check in for Doster with exactly 1 second left. Lacine will be the inbounder, gets it into Parker, and that will do it for the first half. So after 20 minutes, George Masonn 28, St. Bonaventure 18. We'll be right back, and when we are back, we'll go over some of the halftime stats and what St. Bonaventure needs to do in the second half to come back in this one. You're listening to St. Bonaventure Women's Basketball on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. We're back here at the Raleigh Center. We're at halftime. St. Bonaventure trails George Mason 28-18. It was a difficult first half for St. Bonaventure offensively. There were more minutes than points scored for the Bonnies. They shot 27% from the field, 4 for 14 from three-point range, as we're going to take a look at some of the stats from the first half. As like I just mentioned, St. Bonaventure shooting 27% from the field. George Mason shooting 30% from the field. Not much better, but George Mason has only turned the ball over 6 times compared to St. Bonaventure's 9. Both teams have only made 4 3-pointers so far. George Mason has gotten to the free throw line twice. They've knocked down all 4 of their free throws. St. Bonaventure has not gotten to the charity stripe yet. The Bonnies are led in scoring so far by Nikki Oppenheimer. She knocked down 2 3-pointers, as well as Kira Dandridge, as she also knocked down 2 3-pointers. So they combined for 12 points, and the other points came from Caitlin Parker, who had a layup. Tiana Johnson had a bucket in the first quarter, and Nadeshka Lassine got a layup to go as well. So they all have 2 points apiece. And for George Mason so far, they've been led by Taylor Jameson, their point guard. She has 6 points. She knocked down 2 3-pointers from the corner. Riley Childs has 5 points, and then Smith, Doster, and Emphren all have 4 points. George Mason scored 7 points off of St. Bonaventure's turnovers. St. Bonaventure has not scored off a single one of George Mason's 6 turnovers. George Mason dominating inside, 10 points in the paint. Bonaventure only has a singular bucket. And the bench points to put it even, George Mason has 9 bench points. St. Bonaventure has 8, and they're going to need some more bench points as Tiana Johnson went out with an injury in the second quarter. As like I mentioned in the open, both teams looking for their first conference victory of the season. These two teams were picked number 14 and number 15 respectively in the A10 preseason poll. George Mason in their non-conference play went 7-6. They lost their A10 opener to Dayton at home. St. Bonaventure went 3-12 in the non-conference season and lost their A10 opener to UMass. Like I mentioned, St. Bonaventure historically has had some success against George Mason. They played twice last year. They split, both road team winning. George Mason won the most recent matchup between the two here at the Raleigh Center. They won 61-50, but before that, St. Bonaventure and head coach Jesse Fleming has won 5 straight against George Mason. So I'll do it here at halftime. When we return, we will have second half action here from the Raleigh Center, where the score is George Mason 28, St. Bonaventure 18. We'll be right back as you're listening to St. Bonaventure women's basketball on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. We're back here at the Riley Center where the halftime score is 28-18 George Mason as they lead the Brownies here at the Riley Center. Both teams playing in their second Atlantic 10 conference game of the season. As we're underway here in the second half, George Mason will start with possession going from my left to right. As they have it up top, Bonaventure showing a 1-3-1 zone this possession as they kick it over into the corner to Childs. Then back up top to Smith. They get it down low, and traveling violation is going to be called on Casilla. And possession will go back to the Bonnies. New lineup on the floor for St. Bonaventure with Johnson out. It's the four starters, Lucien, Lope, Snapper, and Oppenheimer. And Kira Dandridge joins them on the floor as George Mason continues to provide some full court pressure. As they get it up to Oppenheimer and back up top to Lucien. They kick it over into the corner to Dandridge, now over to Lopes. Lopes trying to drive, kicks it to Dandridge. And they'll reset up top with Lucien with 15 left on the shot clock. Lucien uses a screen, trying to get in towards the paint, can't. Kicks out to Lopes. She'll take a three-pointer. It's up and no good. And it's rebounded by George Mason. So the Patriots looking to push the other way. As Jamison has it, and they'll reset with Sonia Smith up top. As Smith has it, trying to drive into the paint. Her layup is up and good. And George Mason gets the scoring underway here in the second half as their lead's up to 12 as Nassim tries to push up the floor to Napper, but it's deflected out of bounds. But the Bonnies will keep possession. So the Bonnies will inbound from under their own basket with Lucien the inbounder. Gets an inbound to Dandridge. And she kicks up to Lucien and she'll reset with 22 on the shot clock. Just over a minute into the second half, George Mason leading the Bonnies 30-18 as Lopes gets inside. Her mid-range jumper is no good. And it's rebounded by Casilla. Smith looking to push the other way, drives all the way into the paint. Her left-hand layup is up and good. She went the length of the floor. And George Mason's lead is its largest of the game at 14. As Lucien pushes, gets it over to Lopes in the corner. She drives baseline. Her reverse layup is blocked. And rebounded by George Mason. As Sonia Smith looking to push the other way. They'll slow it down a little bit with Jameson. Gets it back to Smith. Tries to drive baseline but has nothing. And resets up top with Jameson. Jameson uses a screen, gets into the paint. Her floater is up and no good. An offensive foul. It's going to be called as Nikki Oppenheimer took the charge. So possession will go back to the Bonnies as that was Jameson's first foul of the game. So just under 2 minutes into the second half. Bonaventure trails 32-18 as Lucien will bring it up the floor and lose it, but possession will stay with St. Bonaventure as good defense from Ephraim. But the Bonnies will keep possession as Lucien has it up top. 32-18 St. Bonaventure trails as Napper gets over to Lucien. She uses a Napper screen, gets into the paint, has nothing and loses it, and it's picked up by George Mason. Sonia Smith pushes it up the floor to Jameson, whose layup is up and no good. And it's rebounded by Taylor Napper. Now Bonaventure looking to push the other way. They don't have numbers, but Lucien will reset up top with Dandridge. Now to get into the corner to Oppenheimer. She has 2 threes so far today. She drives into the paint. Her pull-up jumper is no good. The foul is called on the shot. And it will be 2 free throws for Nikki Oppenheimer. Brianna Ware will check into the game for Laveshka Lucien. As Nikki Oppenheimer will head to the free throw line for just the 5th and 6th time. Really the 3rd time. As her first free throw is good. Now 3 for 5 on the season at the free throw line. And her second free throw is up and good. So she cuts the Bonaventure deficit to 12. About 2.5 minutes into the second half. Up top with Ephraim. And they try to get into the corner, but it's tipped out by Lopes. And possession will stay with George Mason as Cody checks into the game for Taylor Napper. So it's Cody, Lopes, Dandridge, Oppenheimer, and Brianna Ware. As George Masonn will inbound it right in front of their own bench. And to get it inbound to Jamison. Get it up top to Smith. Back over to Jamison. Tries to get it inside to Childs and does. Childs pump fake, dumps it down low to Ephraim, whose layup is up but no good, but the foul's called on Dandridge. And she'll head to the free throw line for 2. Good patience there from George Masonn to work that ball around, get it down low to Ephraim. Just layup didn't go, but drew the foul. That is Dandridge's 3rd foul. As Ephraim's first free throw is good. She made both on her last trip. As the second free throw is up and good. So lead back to 14 for George Masonn. Just under 3 minutes into the second half. 34-20 they lead. As Caitlin Parker checked in during those 2 free throws. Gets it over to Oppenheimer. So it's Oppenheimer, Ware, Parker, Lopes, and Cody as Lopes has it on the elbow. Her one dribble pull-up is good. Gaia Lopes gets it to go. That's a deficit to 12. As Sonia Smith has it up top. Take her over to Ephraim. Bonaventure still in that 2-3 zone. And Smith will bring it over on the wing. Gets it up top to Ephraim. Now over to Childs. They try to swing across court. We can't get it. And the pull-up jumper is no good. From Sonia Smith, it goes out of bounds, but last touch by George Masonn. So the Bonnies will get the ball back. So Parker will get it inbounds to Ware. Kick ball on Childs, who's defending. So Parker will inbound again from under her own basket. Bonaventure trailing by 12, but Parker gets it into Lopes. Gets it right back to Parker. Now up to Oppenheimer. Takes a few dribbles, pulls up from 3, and it's good. Get the Oppenheimer knocks down 3-pointer, and the deficit is down to single digits for the first time in the second half. As it's now 34-25. Now Smith has it up top. Going from side to side, has nothing. Still has it up top with 12 left on the shot clock. Kicks it over to Ephraim. Ephraim gets it back over to Smith. Smith trying to drive with her left hand. Has nothing. Her pull-up jumper is short. That's rebounded by Childs. Puts it up with her left hand. That's no good. And the foul's going to be called as Casilla got the rebound, was trying to go right back up. The foul's going to be called against Brianna Ware. It's her second. As Casilla will head to the free throw line for 2. Be her first trip to the line here this evening. She shoots 32% from the free throw line. So her first free throw is up and no good. The first missed free throw of the night for George Masonn. So his second free throw is no good. And it's rebounded by Childs, but it's eventually picked up by Yaya Lopes. So Bonaventure will get possession back. They trail by 9. 5:42 left here in the third quarter. So Ware has it up top. Trying to use a Lopes screen. Looking for Parker, gets it to her on the elbow. Maybe get back up to Ware up top. She'll drive. Her floater is up and no good. And it's rebounded by Ephraim. And Ephraim will bring the ball up across the timeline herself. As there's an injured player down for George Masonn as time has stopped. As that should send us to a media timeout. With 5:16 remaining here in the third.
Keep working. Go ahead, Pete. Come on, Pete. You're good.
And we'll be right back. with 5:16 left here in the third quarter. George Masonn leads 34-25. Back here at the Raleigh Center, we're with 5:16 left here in the third quarter. St. Bonaventure trails 34-25. And play it off the floor for George Masonn, so they will have possession. Suarez has it up top. Gets over to Childs. She brings it over on the wing. 13 left on the shot clock. Gets over to Ephraim. Her floater is up and no good. And it's rebounded by Claire Cody. So they will bring it up the floor for Bonaventure. Wade Parker, Cody, Oppenheimer, and Lopes on the floor as they get up to Lopes at the free throw line. Her jumper is up and in out. And rebound fought forward. Foul is going to be called against Caitlin Parker. And possession will go back to George Masonn, and that will send us to a media timeout. So with 4:47 left here in the third quarter, George Masonn 34, St. Bonaventure 25. You're listening to St. Bonaventure Women's Basketball on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. Back here at the Raleigh Center, halfway through the third quarter, St. Bonaventure trails George Masonn 34-25. This has been the score for the last few minutes. But George Masonn will have possession. St. Bonaventure applying some full court pressure as Claire Cody, Caitlin Parker, Nikki Oppenheimer, Brianna Ware, and Yaya Lopes are on the floor for them as they get it inbound to Suarez, and she gives it right back up. And they get it across the timeline with ease. As Suarez will have it up top for George Masonn. Bonaventure playing man for the first time here tonight. As Suarez gets it over to Jameson. Jameson looking inside. It's intercepted and picked up by Yaya Lopes. Gets up to Caitlin Parker, bringing up the floor for the Brownies. 4:20 left here in the third quarter. They trail by 9. As Parker crosses over, kicks over to Ware in the corner. She tries to drive baseline but can't. Gets back up top to Lopes. Lopes driving with the left hand, kicks over to Claire Cody, whose three-pointer is up and no good. And it's rebounded by Jameson. George Masonn looking to push the ball quickly. As Jameson will give it up to Suarez, tries to get it down low and does. And Doster's layup is up and no good. Good defense there from Cody and Lopes, but they lose it. And it's picked up eventually by Nikki Oppenheimer. So ball was loose for a moment as Brianna Ware has it. She gets into the paint. Tries to go up with a layup, but it goes off her leg. And possession will go back to the Patriots. So 3:43 still remaining here in this third quarter. Bonaventure trails by 9. As Suarez will have it up top. Looks inside for Jameson, loses it, falls on the ground, and it's going to be a jump ball, but the possession arrow favors George Masonn. Excuse me, the possession arrow favors St. Bonaventure, so the Lions will get the ball back. As Peyton Fields checks into the game for the first time. That's Ware, Parker, Lopes, Oppenheimer, and Fields. As Ware has it up top. Gets it to Lopes on the elbow. One dribble, kicks it over to Parker now on the wing, up to Ware. 10 left on the shot clock. Ware has it up top. She drives into the paint. The floater is up there and no good. And it's rebounded by Oster. The Suarez bring the ball up with 3 minutes left here in the third quarter. They get it into the corner to Brown. And back up to Suarez, who can't corral the pass. That'll be another jump ball called. And this time the possession now favors George Masonn. As the Deshkel team will check into the game. Now for Ware. As Trey Kennedy will check in for Jaden Brown for George Masonn. So George Masonn gets it back inbounds. 20 left on the shot clock. Suarez has it. Kicks it over now to Kennedy. Kennedy looking inside but has nothing. Back up to Suarez. Suarez trying to make a move. Kicks over to Kennedy on the wing. Tries to dump it down low and make a kickball violation. So the shot clock will reset back up to 20. The Suarez will inbound it from under her own basket. Now she gets it inbound to Jameson. She'll take a three-pointer that's up and no good. And that's rebounded by Peyton Fields. Gets up to Lacine, and the Bonnies looking to push. They don't have numbers. So Lacine slows it down a little bit, now trying to drive with her left hand. Gets to Lopes. We'll give it right back to Lacine. She'll try to drive into the paint. Her scoop layup's up and blocked. Looked like Mitchell was out of bounds when she corralled the block. Bonaventure will keep possession. 2:19 left here in the third. Bonaventure continuing to trail by 9. George Masonn hasn't scored since 85 seconds into the second half. But Bonaventure not able to inch any closer so far. As Lacine has on the wing. Tries to use the field screen. She gives it to Fields now, whose three-pointer is up and no good. It's rebounded by Caitlin Parker, and a foul is going to be called on the rebound by Trey Kennedy. As Melanie Casara checks back into the game for George Masonn. She'll come in for Doster, and now Janiyah Ephraim will check in as well. So Lacine inbounding from under her own basket, gets to Parker. Now up to Lacine. Lacine being trapped in the corner, gets it up to Lopes. And they'll reset with Lacine up top. 2 minutes left here in the third quarter. 10 left on the shot clock. Bonaventure has possession down by 9. As the team trying to make a move gets it up to Oppenheimer with 4 left on the shot clock. Oppenheimer's going to have to hoist one up, and she hits from 3-point range, and the deficit is down to 6 as Nikki Oppenheimer up to 14 points for the night. As there's 97 seconds left here in the third quarter. 34-28. As Suarez gets over to Mitchell. Mitchell now finds Jameson. Jameson back up top. They get it inside to Casaya. She drives, and it's blocked. And eventually picked up by Ephraim. She'll go right back up with it. It's no good. The ball will go out of bounds. Last touch by Fields. So George Mason will keep possession. 1:17 left here in the third. This is the closest Bonaventure has been since the first quarter. As referees are headed to the monitor, and we'll step aside for a quick moment. With 1:17 left here in the third quarter, St. Bonaventure trails George Mason 34-28. You're listening to St. Bonaventure Women's Basketball on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. We're back here at the Riley Center where St. Bonaventure has cut the deficit to just 6 with 1:17 remaining here in the third quarter. This is the closest that they have been in the second half. So Bonnies have been playing well. They're on an 8-0 run. This is the best run that they've had so far today. As they're outscoring George Mason 10-6. Here in this third quarter. On the floor for the Bonnies, Caitlin Parker, Nikki Oppenheimer, Yaya Lopes, Peyton Fields, and Deshka Lacine. As George Mason will restart action with possession. As they get it inbounds to Childs. She'll drive right into the paint. Her layup is up and no good, but foul's called on Fields. And that will send George Mason to the free throw line. That's Field's first foul. As it would be Riley Childs, who is at the free throw line shooting a 60% free throw shooter, which made both of hers so far today. As her first one's up and good, ending the Bonaventure run. That 8-0 run lasted 5 minutes and 57 seconds. The second free throw is up and hits back down. Rebound front for it, eventually picked up by Childs. And George Masonn will restart and have a complete another possession as Jameson has it, tries to drive into the paint. Her layup is up and no good. The traveling violation called before the foul. So possession will go back to the Bonnies. 63 seconds left here in the third quarter. George Masonn 35, St. Bonaventure 28. As Lacine will bring it up top. Under a minute now here in the third quarter. As Lacine trying to drive with her right hand. Takes it over to Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer. Her mid-range jumper is way short. And it's picked up by Suarez. She looks to push the other way. Gets over to Jamison. 39 seconds left here in the third quarter. 15 seconds differentiate between the shot clock and game clock. Jamison gets it back over to Suarez. Suarez trying to drive with her left hand. Gets to the elbow, looking inside, kicks it out to Ephraim. Ephraim gives up to Suarez. She'll take a three from straight on, and it's in and out. And it's rebounded by St. Bonaventure. And the Bonnies will have a chance for the last shot here. Parker has it up top. 13 seconds left here in the third quarter. Bonnies trail by 7. As there's now 7 seconds remaining. Clock's down to 5. Now 4. They go to Lopes on the elbow. 3, 2. She puts it up and hits. Yaya Lopes hit the floor at the buzzer. And that will end the third quarter. So with 10 minutes left to play, George Masonn 35, St. Bonaventure 30. You're listening to St. Bonaventure Women's Basketball on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. Right here at the Riley Center, we're about to enter the fourth quarter between George Masonn and St. Bonaventure. The Bonnies only trail by 5. This is George Mason's smallest lead here in the second half. As we're underway, So St. Bonaventure will have possession, trying to make this a one-possession game. As Parker will have it, kicks over to Oppenheimer. She pump fakes, tries to drive, can't. Gives it up to Parker in the corner. Now back up top to Lacine. Lacine, Parker, Oppenheimer, Napper, and Fields on the floor for the Bonnies. As Parker has it on the wing, 12 left on the shot clock. We get it up to Lacine. She's trying to drive, gets into the paint, falls down, gives it up to Parker. Her three-pointer is up there and no good. And it's rebounded by Paula Suarez. She's looking to push the floor quickly with the Patriots. She gets into the paint, tries to kick it into the corner, but it's deflected and picked up by Caitlin Parker. And she looks to push it the other way for the Bonnies. Parker driving with her left hand, puts up a wild layup, and a foul is called. So Caitlin Parker will head to the free throw line for 2. Good take from Caitlin Parker, and she was able to try the foul. She'll head to the free throw line looking to make it a one-possession game. She's knocked down 9 of her 15 free throws so far this season. Good for 60%. As her first free throw is up and good. It's now 35-31, George Masonn. As Caitlin Parker's second free throw is good. And it's a one-possession game for the first time since the first quarter. As Suarez will bring it up the floor for the Bonnies. For George Masonn. As Efren has it now up top. Kicks it over into the corner to Jameson. She gets it over to Childs now. Looking down low to Castillo. She gets it over to Jameson, whose three-pointer is up and no good. And it's rebounded by Peyton Fields. As Fields gives it up to Lacine. She'll throw it all the way down the floor to Parker, whose reverse layup is up and good. And it's a one-point game. Still 8:45 left here in this game. George Masonn 35, St. Bonaventure 34. Suarez is up top to Jameson. Her three-pointer is up and no good. And it's rebounded by Caitlin Parker. She gets it up to Nadeshka Lacine. So again, Lacine, Parker, Oppenheimer, Fields, and Napper on the floor. As Oppenheimer has it up top, gets it to Napper on the elbow. Napper gets it to Oppenheimer. Far back three-pointer, instead trying to drive with her left hand. Gets up to Lacine, 10 left on the shot clock. With 7, she starts to drive with her left hand. Her floater is up and no good. It's rebounded by Taylor Napper. She goes right back up. Her layup's no good. And it's rebounded by George Masonn. A jump ball is going to be called, but the possession now is headed towards George Masonn. As Lawhorn and Brown will check in for George Masonn. As Ephraim and Childs will take a seat. So the Bonnies continue to trail by 1. 8 minutes left here in this game. Patriots will have possession. Suarez will bring it up top. It's over to the wing, looking for Jameson. And gets to Jameson. Jameson has it up top. She gets over to Brown. Back up to Jameson. Gets it inside to Lawhorn. She goes right at the scene with the traveling violations called, and possession will go back to St. Bonaventure. So Bonnies will have possession down by 1. 7:43 remaining. That's the scene. It's to Napper, who finds Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer trying to drive to her left hand, gets up to Lacine. Lacine gets over to Parker now. Parker looking inside, instead gets back to Lacine with 10 left on the shot clock. Lacine trying to drive with her left hand, kicks over the field. She'll take a three-pointer, and it's good. And St. Bonaventure has its first lead since the opening minute of this game, as they lead 39-35, and that will force a George Masonn timeout. So with 7:11 left in this game, St. Bonaventure 37, George Masonn 35. We'll be right back as you're listening to St. Bonaventure Women's Basketball on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. We're back here at the Riley Center where St. Bonaventure has its first lead since the opening minutes of this game. They lead 37-35 with 7:11 left in this game. They're on a 9-0 run over the last 4 minutes, a 19-3 run over the last 11 and a half minutes. As Coach Jesse Fleming will keep the same lineup on the floor of Lacine, Parker, Fields, Napper, and Oppenheimer. But George Mason will have possession. As they get it inbounds to Suarez, now over to Jameson. Jameson driving with her left hand. Bonaventure continuing to play that 2-3 zone. As Kiesa got it inside, a traveling violation is called, and possession will go back to the Bonnies. So Lacine will bring it up top now for the Bonnies. We'll have a 2-point lead. It's the largest of the game. As Lacine trying to drive. Has nothing, gets it up to Napper. Back over to Lacine. She'll start to drive with her left hand, kicks over to Fields. Fields will drive baseline. Her layup is up and no good. No foul called. I think a foul could have been called as there's 5 left on the shot clock. Oppenheimer has it on the wing. We go to Lacine with 2, with 1. She'll hoist up a 3-pointer. That's no good. That goes out of bounds of possession. We'll go back to George Mason. So George Mason will have possession. 6:30 left in this game. Patriots trail by 2. And they led by as many as 14 in this game. As Jameson kicks over to Suarez, they get it inside to Lawhorn. Her mid-range jumper is up, no good. It's rebounded by Cassie, and she loses it. As Brown now has it, they reset with Jameson. 17 left on the shot clock. They kick it up to Suarez. Suarez drives into the paint, tries to dump it down to Casilla. She does. Her layup is no good. She gets her own rebound. Will go back up again, and a foul's called on Bonnies. And Casilla will head to the free throw line for 2. Casilla missed both of her free throws so far today. Coming into today, she is a 32% free throw shooter. As Lopes will check into the game for Peyton Fields. While on the floor the last 6 or so minutes. Here it is. The last 6:18 on the floor for Peyton Fields. The only minutes she's played so far tonight. She was a plus 11. As Casilla's second free throw is no good after making the first. As they kick it over to Brown, she'll take a 2-pointer. That's good. Foot was on the line, so George Mason now has a 38-37 lead. As the senior bring it up the floor, she'll drive. This is the paint, dumps down low too. Lopes' layup is up and good. And Bonaventure gets the lead right back, 39-38, with 5:37 left. As Suarez gets over to Jameson. Jameson back up top to Brown. Now to Suarez, they rotate it over to Lawhorn. Her mid-range jumper is blocked. And George Mason will keep possession as Doster and Ephraim check back into the game for Casilla and Lawhorn. Jameson gets inbounds to Doster. Get it back to Jameson. Her 3-point from the corner is no good. She's able to track down her own rebound though, and that's a reset of the shot clock. So 18 left on the shot clock now as Suarez has it up top. Gets it over to Brown. Brown trying to look inside. 7 left on the shot clock. They go to Ephraim. She tries to drive with her left hand. Her layup is up and no good. Rebounded by Lopes. And Parker will bring it up the floor. Under 5 minutes remaining now in this game. The Bonnies hold a 1-point lead. Lacine gets it to Napper. Now over to Lopes. Lopes backing down, gives up to Napper. She'll take a 3-pointer, it's short. And it's rebounded by Jada Brown. And Suarez looking to push for George Mason. Coaching staff wanted them to push the ball a little bit as they go over to Jada Brown now. Back up top to Jameson. 39-38, St. Bonaventure leads. 4.5 minutes left in this game. Suarez gets in the paint. Her layup is up and good. Great take from Paul. Suarez gives George Mason a 1-point lead. As the scene will have it up top. Uses the double screen. Looking inside, instead gets to Lopes up top. She tries to find Napper inside, and the foul's going to be called on Jasmine Doster. That'll lead to a stoppage, and Kira Dandridge and Peyton Fields check back into the game for Caitlin Parker and Taylor Napper. So it will be Lacine, Oppenheimer, Lopes, Dandridge, and Fields on the floor for the Bonnies. 4:07 left. George Mason leads by 1. Lacine, the inbounder, gets it over to Dandridge. They get it up top to Oppenheimer. Catch and shoot. 3 is up, and it's no good. And it's rebounded by Doster. So Suarez looking to push the ball quickly. He gets up to Jameson. Back over to Suarez, and they'll slow things down with 3:51 remaining here in this game. 16 left on the shot clock. Jameson trying to get around Lopes, and the foul's going to be called on Lopes. That's her first. Only the second team foul for Bonaventure. Both teams have not been called for too many fouls so far tonight. Suarez has the top, gets over to Brown. 15 left on the shot clock to get it over to Suarez on the wing. She uses the screen, gets over to Brown. She'll take a mid-range jumper. It's good. And George Mason's lead back up to 3. It's 42-39. And that will force head coach Jesse Fleming to call a timeout for the Bonnies as they trail by 3 with 3:30 left here in this one. We'll be right back as you're listening to St. Bonaventure Women's Basketball on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. We're back here at the Riley Center with 3:30 remaining. St. Bonaventure trails by 3. They will have possession. The Bonnies have been held to 3 of 10 from the field here in the fourth quarter. As the scene has it on the wing, gets it down low to Lopes. Trying to back down her defender. She loses it. It's picked up by Fields. And they'll reset with Oppenheimer, and now the scene up top with 3:15 remaining. The scene trying to make the move, kicks over to Fields. Now back up top to the scene. 8 left on the shot clock. She calls for a screen, uses the Lopes screen, gets up to Lopes. She'll take a 3-point from straight on. That's no good. And it's rebounded by Dandridge. And a reset of the shot clock up to 20 with 3 minutes left here in this game. 42-39, George Mason leads as the scene trying to use the screen, gets into the paint, kicks over to Fields. Her mid-range jumper is up and good. Peyton Fields has played great in her minutes here in the second half. She's up to 5 points, and the Bonnie deficit is down to 1. 2.5 minutes remaining. As Brown gets up to Jameson up top, now over to Suarez. Suarez trying to use the screen, tries to get it inside to Ephraim. Kicks it into the corner, 3-pointers up from Jameson, it's no good. And it's rebounded by Dandridge. And Bonaventure will have possession with a chance to take the lead as Lacine trying to push it up the floor quickly, gets over to Dandridge, now back up top to Lacine. 42-41, George Mason leads. St. Bonaventure has the ball with Lopes up top, now Dandridge. As Dandridge continuing to hold it, goes up to Oppenheimer. And over to Lacine. 7 left on the shot clock. We're under 2 minutes remaining here in this game as Lacine trying to drive. With 2 seconds on the shot clock, Lopes going to have to put up a 3-pointer, and it's good. Lopes knocks down a 3-pointer, and St. Bonaventure has a 2-point lead with 1:45 left here in this game. And Suarez will have it up top for George Mason. Gets it over to Brown. Now back up to Jameson. Suarez has it, 1:30 left here in this game. Brown that gets over to Suarez, now they rotate it over to Ephraim. Ephraim back up top to Jameson, 10 left on the shot clock, Suarez has it. Suarez picked up her dribble, gets it down low to Doster, she'll drive, her reverse layup is up and no good. It's rebounded by Ephraim, she'll go right back up with it, and the foul's called on the putback attempt. And Janiyah Ephraim will head to the free throw line for 2. Foul was called on Kaylee Dandridge, that's her 4th. That's Janiyah Ephraim. Perfect 4 for 4 from the line so far tonight. As her first free throw is up and no good. Took a long time for her to get it up. It's coming into tonight. She is a 71% free throw shooter. As that from second free throw is up and good this time. So Bonaventure leads 44-43. 70 seconds left. Lasine gets over to Lopes. Lopes trying to drive, has nothing, gets over to Lasine. Lasine called for a travel. As she called it, tried to rip through, but traveling violation called, and possession will go back to George Mason. So exactly 60 seconds left. St. Bonaventure 44, George Mason 43. Suarez has it up top, gets it over to Jameson. Jameson has it on the wing, gets it up to Kasaya, now over to Brown. Brown looking for Suarez, finds her. Suarez catches it, 17 left on the shot clock, 45 left in the game. They kick it over to Jada Brown. Now back up top to Suarez, 10 left on the shot clock. Suarez trying to make something happen, gets into the paint, kicks over into the corner for Ephraim. Her three-pointer is up and no good. Rebound tipped in, picked up by George Mason. And now Ephraim has the foul's going to be called as Ephraim hit the deck. That's going to be called on Yaya Lopes. Her second foul. They'll be called on the floor. So George Mason will have possession. They'll inbound it from under their own basket with 29.9 left in this game. They trail by 1, and we're going to step aside for a quick second as you're listening to St. Bonaventure Women's Basketball on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. We're back here at the Riley Center where 29.9 seconds are left. Bonaventure leads George Mason 44-43. George Mason will inbound it from under their own basket. It's Suarez. She gets it inbounds to Jameson in the corner. Jameson looking for someone, gets it down low to Kasaya. Her drop step move, layup is up and good. Now timeout's going to be called by Jesse Fleming as George Mason regains the lead 45-44 with 22.1 left. A great play by George Mason. They got it inbounds, got it up to the wing, got it right down to Kasaya. And her layup was up and good. Kasaya, that was only a first field goal of the game. And she gives George Mason the lead with 22 seconds remaining. Timeout was given to St. Bonaventure, so they'll have possession. Bonaventure has shot the ball pretty efficiently in the second half, much better than in the first half. They only trail by 1 with 22 seconds left. So on the floor for George Mason, it'll be Casaya, Jamison, Suarez, Brown, and Ephraim. And for St. Bonaventure, it'll be Peyton Fields, Kira Dandridge, Yaya Lopes, Nikki Oppenheimer, and Nadeshka Lassine. Lassine will be the inbounder with 22.1 left. She gets it inbounds to Lopes and gets it right back to Lassine. 20 left on the game clock. Lassine trying to drives with her right hand. Spin move in the way it is blocked. And it goes out of bounds, but possession will stay with the Bonnies. With 13.7 seconds remaining. And the timeout is going to be called by St. Bonaventure. And they will continue to have possession with 13.7 left, down by 2. We're going to take a 30-second break. But when we return, we'll have the final seconds here from the Rally Center as you're listening to St. Bonaventure Women's Basketball on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. So after that short break, we're back here with 13.7 left. Where George Mason leads 45-44. St. Bonaventure has possession. Lassine, Fields, Lopes, Dandridge, and Oppenheimer are on the floor for the Bonnies. Inbounding from under their own basket, it's Lassine. Lassine looking for Dandridge, gets it to her. 12 left on the game clock. She looks for Lassine and finds her. And a foul's going to be called on Ephraim. For 10.6 seconds left. George Mason still has another foul to give. As Lassine's inbounding right in front of her bench. As she gets it inbounds to Lopes. Now they get it back to Lassine. Lassine trying to drive into the paint. Gets into the paint and a foul's going to be called. Just can't tell if it's a foul called on Lassine going up or on the floor as the referees converse in the paint. It looks like it's going to be on the floor. As Taylor Napper checks into the game, 6.7 seconds left. As Lassine will be the inbounder. Lassine looking for Lopes. Tries to get it in for Lopes. She puts it up and it's no good. It's rebounded by Ephraim and a foul is going to be called on St. Bonaventure. And Ephraim will head to the free throw line. Actually, excuse me, it'll be a timeout called by George Mason. So with 3.9 left, George Mason will have the ball up by 1. We'll step aside. The one return will have the last seconds here from the Rally Center. As you're listening to St. Bonaventure Women's Basketball on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. We're back here at the Rally Center where George Mason will have possession up by 1. They added a few tenths of the second remaining. Or excuse me, added, I should say. 4.1 seconds left. George Mason 45, St. Bonaventure 44. George Mason called timeout, so they advance the ball. So Suarez will be the inbounder in front of her own bench. Lopes defending her as Suarez gets an inbounds to Jameson, a foul called immediately. As it was Caitlin Parker that fouled Jameson. Jameson coming into tonight an 80% free throw shooter. She has not been to the line yet tonight. As Napper will check back into the game, this time for Nikki Oppenheimer. As Casilla will check in now for Childs for George Mason for rebounding purposes. 2 shots for Jameson. As George Mason leads by 1. And our first free throw is up and good. So Bonaventure does have a timeout, so if she makes it, they can call timeout and advance the ball with 3.6 left. As Jameson's second free throw is up and good. And St. Bonaventure will do exactly that. So they trail by 3 with 3.6 seconds left. And we'll take another 30-second break when we return the last 3.5 seconds where the Bonnies trail by 3. You're listening to St. Bonaventure Women's Basketball on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. Back here at the Raleigh Center with 3.6 seconds remain. Bonaventure trails by 3. On the floor will be Nikki Oppenheimer, Taylor Napper, Nadeshka Racine, and Yaya Lopes. And Caitlin Parker will be the inbounder for the Bonnies. They need to get a shot off with 3.6 left. Parker looking for Oppenheimer. And gets it into her. Oppenheimer step back three-pointer as foul called first. Looks like a foul is going to be called on the floor. And Oppenheimer will head to the free throw line. So George Masonn player who wasn't too happy with the call. Actually probably benefits them a little bit as Bonaventure will head to the free throw line. As Childs will check into the game for Jada Brown for rebounding purposes. Bonaventure has Lopes and Napper down low. Oppenheimer's first free throw is up and good, so it's a 2-point game, 2.8 seconds left. Let's see if Oppenheimer looks to intentionally miss this one. As she does, rebound is... It looked like a timeout was called on by George Masonn. But they even have possession. So it'll be a timeout by George Masonn with 2.5 left. So it's a 30-second timeout. That's George Mason's last. So what St. Bonaventure's goal needs to be is to maybe force a 5-second call. As it looked like George Masonn did initially have possession at first. As she caught it in the air, it was Childs. But regardless, George Masonn will have possession in front of their own bench. 2.5 left. Bonaventure needs to force a 5-second count. Kind of a chance as they have no timeouts left. As the referee is looking to add more time. But neither team have a timeout remaining. And as of right this second, 2.5 seconds remain on the game clock. George Masonn still leads 47-45. The referee still looking at the clock. That's just a tough break for St. Bonaventure. It looked like that once the George Masonn player got the rebound, when she came down, she was met immediately by Caitlin Parker. It would have been a jump ball, and St. Bonaventure would have had possession with 2.5 seconds left. And they did have the tallest player on the court with Yaya Lopes coming out of an out-of-bounds play, so they would have had a chance. But timeout was called somehow by someone on George Masonn. So they have possession. They'll have it right in front of their own bench. No timeouts for George Masonn, no timeouts for St. Bonaventure. Bonnie's need to force a 5-second count. That Suarez will be the inbounder. On the floor for the Bonnies is Oppenheimer, Dandridge, Lopes, Parker, and Lacine. As Suarez looking to get it inbound. She does to Brown. She's met immediately by Lacine. 0.5 seconds go off. So George Mason can ice it with some free throws here. Bonaventure has no timeouts. As the first free throw is up and good. George Mason can seal on this second free throw. As it's up and good. And George Mason has a 4-point lead with 2.2 seconds left. Bonaventure has no timeouts. As Parker gets it into Lacine. She gets up to Oppenheimer. It's too late as the buzzer sounds, and that will do it. As the final score is George Mason 49, St. Bonaventure 45. We're going to take a super quick break, but when we return, we'll have St. Bonaventure head coach Jesse Fleming, who joins us after tonight's loss. But again, the final score is George Mason 49, St. Bonaventure 45. We'll be right back. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We're back here on WSBU 88.3 FM, The Buzz. I'm here joined with head coach Jesse Fleming. Coach, a difficult loss for you guys, but you guys were able to come back. What were some takeaways from tonight's game?
Yeah, call out Peyton Fields, great, brought us a bunch of energy. Caitlin Parker brought us a bunch of energy, at that end of third quarter, beginning of fourth quarter. I was really proud of I think it was 35-30 at the end of the third quarter, and I think we got it out to 39-37, and it was a really, really good start to that quarter. It was a rebound here, a rebound there. Again, our execution wasn't what it needed to be down the stretch. It was close. We're getting closer. We had a good look. We got to get on the same page a little bit more late, but there were some positive things, and hopefully we keep growing. Okay.
Sure. And at halftime, you guys were down by double digits, but just to come back and have a chance on your final possession, what does that say about your team?
Yeah, I thought we kept competing. I think the more I'm around this team, like these are the ones where we're gonna have to win. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to be the 52-47 team, and it was one or two more shots, but I thought the press got to us in the first half, and I thought in the second half we came out and really were aggressive against it, and they had to pull out of it, and I thought that was a huge deal. So some positive things there, definitely more positive than negative.
Sure. And then you mentioned Peyton Fields. Her and Caitlin Parker came in the second half and kind of helped get you guys back into the game. What can you say about your bench and how they played tonight?
Yeah, I thought P's one that love her, and she's works really hard and hasn't gotten that opportunity. She's a little bit of a tweener, but she deserves it. She works hard, and I'm happy for her to come in and do some positive things on both ends, really. I thought there was some good stuff that she did, and KP was just, KP's a shot of an adrenaline for us sometimes, and it was good to have her be that.
Sure. And then Nikki knocked down 4 3-pointers for you. What can you say from her as a senior leader, just able to hit some shots?
Yeah, I thought it might have been one of Nikki's best games ever, and it wasn't just about the shot making. I thought Nikki got in there and tried to rebound. I think she took a charge. I think she's talking in the zone. I thought she really, really competed today, and that was great to see.
Sure. And then, Coach, last question for you. Just after a tough loss like this, what's your message to your team to keep the spirits up ahead of your next game?
Yeah, it's we've said in the past, it's you got to be careful with quicksand, and you got to find a way to flush this one down, and we got to look at more of the positives on on UMass. You know, like, hey, UMass, we did a great, you know, we did some really good things, won a quarter here and there. This game, hey, we came back. You know, now it's just consistently put together. We just put ourselves in a little bit of a hole in that first half, and you know, I think, you know, we just got to embrace that everybody's going to step up and do things at different times, and hopefully we'll get it in the right direction.
Great, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
So we're going to take another quick break, but when we return, we'll go over some of the final stats here from the Rally Center tonight, where the final score was George Masonn 49, St. Bonaventure 45. Back here at the Rally Center, where the final score was George Masonn 49, St. Bonaventure 45. We just heard from St. Bonaventure head coach Jesse Fleming after a difficult loss, but this was a team where they trailed by 14 in the second half, was able to come back, take the lead in the second half, and they had a chance to tie it on the final possession, but were just unable to. But it's good to see a team that came in today 3-13 on the year and 0-1 in conference play to have that fight, to be able to come back in this game and put up a fight in the fourth quarter and make it a game at the end of it. Now let's take a look at some of the stats from tonight. They shot 29% from the field. They knocked down 8 of 26 field goal attempts from a three-point range, so they shot 31% from deep, and they made 5 of 6 free throws. For George Masonn, they shot 27% from the field. They shot 4 of 20 from three-point range, and they were 13 of 18 from the free throw line. George Masonn turned the ball over 16 times. St. Bonaventure only 14. The Buys were led by Nikki Oppenheimer, who had 15 points. Caitlin Parker and Kira Dandridge both had 6, and Yaya Lopes had 9. So that will do it for the Rally Center, from the Rally Center here tonight, as again the final score was George Masonn 49, St. Bonaventure 45. Our next broadcast will be on Sunday against George Washington here at the Rally Center. Tip-off will be at 1 o'clock. The pregame show will begin at 12:45. That will do it from the Rally Center. We appreciate you tuning in, and good night, everyone.